this is a moment and I just want parents to feel empowered. It doesn't have to be a complete ban. It just has to be thinking about it. Let's just, on a collective level, think about what is happening to our kids and who we have let take over our lives.
I'm Miranda Rake.
And I'm Sarah Wheeler, and this is The Mother of It All, where we take on motherhood through the lens of culture and culture through the lens of motherhood. Good morning, Miranda Rake.
Good morning, Sarah. How are you?
Well, I have a choose your own adventure for you. I put a list of topics in the chat. Can you see them?
Okay.
And you can choose where you want me to go with that question.
Okay. I've been wondering about the Diva Cup. I've been wondering how your menstrual cup
Topic number 1
experience is going. And I know that we both have relevant, immediate vacation period. Yours is coming up. Mine is behind me. So I'd love to know about the cup and vacation period. So much.
Yeah, I mean, who has 4 thumbs up and loves bleeding into a little like plastic thing? This guy, yeah, it's amazing. I actually, I don't think there's been like a single thing in the last few years that has changed my life so much. Maybe like my e-bike.
Yeah.
But I was a real Diva Cup naysayer. Mostly I was just like, that's good for you light flow bitches. But like for those of us that sometimes like, you know, that have had to wear Depends at times in our lives to like catch extra blood, that's not a little like that little cuppy cup is not going to cover it. And yeah, and then it has. I also like I tried to use a diaphragm before I had kids as birth control, and I like couldn't figure it out. But now that I had 2 babies, it's just like open season down there.
And
it is so easy to like I could do a double the size of the Diva Cup. Like I just get my whole fist in there. It's just like whoop. So that part's easy. And then it's just yeah, I mean, I just wear a panty liner, and I'm literally someone that was like changing a Super Plus tampon every few hours for like the heaviest days of my period. And then your plug for it, that, I mean, you talk to me, you can say more about this, about like enjoying the physical experience of like watching what was happening.
Yeah, it's like funny because I think the thing I love most about it is like I think about my period less. Because I can do like on light days, it's like 12 hours and I don't even have to think about it. I don't have to interact with it. It's just sitting there inside of me. And but yeah, it's, I think seeing like actually what is coming out of my body and like, I do feel more connected to what's happening, like more aware. It's more obvious, like and it actually sort of made me like, some of it's just Griffin's age maybe, but like I had to go into the bathroom to like change the cup, and I was like, I need privacy, and he follows me into the bathroom a lot for just to pee.
Yes, my children also have no boundaries.
Yeah. And he was like, well, why? And so then I explained, and I think something about the cup process was like easier to explain. I was like, this cup fills with blood, and it's not exactly blood, and it's related to like why I can have babies, and like, and so I kind of feel
it's
like
more of
me
like
being more connected
process
to it made it easier to talk to him.
Well,
about
it's almost like you think about it less, but you appreciate it more. Like I am enjoying. I thought this was fucked up when you said this. I'm so sorry. I judged you. But now I understand. Like I enjoy it. You pull it out. For anyone who doesn't know, you like, it's kind of suctioned on, but you like tug it out when you're ready, and then you dump it into the toilet, and you can like see all the blood that you've gotten rid of. And it's amazing. Like, I think especially on the days, like the last 2 days that I've been like just basically taken out by the, like the peak of my period, I'm like, oh, this is why I'm tired. This is why I have a headache. This is why I want to watch the Gilmore Girls. It's not because it's good. It's because like, look at what my body is doing. And then it's just cool to be like, oh, it's not all like consistent. There's like different things in there because it is a combination of blood and like uterine lining.
Well, at the beginning of mine, it's like, this is getting, but anyway, it's the texture is very different. And
you
you're
can
like,
fast forward a few minutes if you're getting squeamish. Go for it. But we recommend you stay.
Yeah, it's like chunky, that's like, you're like, oh, wow, interesting. And then like you're saying,
tampon disguised all that.
This is why I feel terrible, or like, this is why I feel, really tired.
Or why I'm so amazing. Like, this is, look at my fucking body. It's doing this. Like other people are just, I don't know, farting. And like, this is what I've done today. It feels very productive. Well, I wrote a piece last month for Scary Mommy about talking to my son about periods and like how much I love that and how that feels like important to me. And we have like, there is more blood in the toilets in our house now because of this. Like, even if you flush it, I'm sorry, this is very gross. Even if you flush it, it's like, it's a lot of blood.
It's a lot. And I drip. Do you drip?
We were talking about it
dripping
more.
Is part of it, right? Like dripping. Sometimes it's on my hand. I don't know. It's messier. It's like a messier period experience, but it's also easier. And then it's not, and you don't have to remember to buy anything. You don't have to be like, oh, I need tampons, or, oh, I need, like, you just have it.
I'm giving Kotex or whatever. I don't always. And they all own all the brands, right? Honey Pot, less of my money right now. And I should specify, I'm using the phrase Diva Cup the way that we use Kleenex. But actually the one that I have is called a Fun Cup. Okay. And I got it from Toys in Babeland in Portland.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wait, from Babeland?
Babeland, that's what it's called.
Yeah. I think Toys is a movie or something. Anyway.
Babes in Toyland is a movie. Yeah, that's a whole, that is way more bizarre than Bleeding into a Cup, that movie. But So shout out to Fun Cup. I think it's like a small little company, but there's all different kinds. I just, I think it's, so I've also been reading, I've been talking to you about this book, Period, by Kate Clancy. And I think she calls herself like a feminist biologist. And it's basically a book about how everything we know about periods is wrong. And I'm like, I am 41 and I am just learning this now. And I think that that's like a little sad, but it also feels pretty cool to be like, I can still learn and change even about my own body. So I think that book should be sold with a little Fun Cup. Like they should do a cross promotion. I'm going to pitch it.
Well, the person who made the Witch podcast that I talked about, the BBC Witch, she also did 28 Days, which is about your menstrual cycle.
Different from 28 Days Later, which is about zombies being the great.
Right. I think it's just called 28 Days. And I keep meaning to listen to it and I haven't yet, but everyone says it's amazing. And I think
cool. A podcast about,
just explaining all of that. Because I know, I think like, when we were teens and like
really recently
someone told us about our periods, like a lot of it was just in the framework of like, here's what you do. Like, you're not dying and here's what you do.
Right.
And it wasn't
Here's how to put a tampon. Here's that diagram of like shoving a tampon that looks like a plumbing instruction manual. That was like, wait, how? What?
No. But it's like, it's interesting to think about how much richer that story is. And
who taught you about your period? Your mom?
I guess my mom. I don't have any vivid memories of it. Like somehow along the way I knew it was coming and then it came. And
how old were you?
12 or 13.
Yeah, me too.
It was Christmas. I remember because normally I would go to my dad's house on Christmas Day and I like didn't feel great, and I think that we figured out like that I was getting my period, and I remember like calling my dad because I wasn't going to see him, and he was like, he calls it your ladies' time. He was like, "Oh, your
Sounds
ladies'
like
time
tea.
has come." I was like, "Okay."
Sounds like a knitting circle. Yeah, your ladies' time.
But there
Is
were
your
no men in my household. It was me and my mom.
yeah,
So I
yeah,
think girl stuff was it's like you're watching Gilmore Girls. It's like that. It's like it was just the two of us kind of in our own little
yeah.
world of women stuff. So I don't know. I think girl stuff was more casual, maybe
Yeah.
in that environment. It wasn't like
yeah.
a big moment. It was just like oh yeah, that's your period. Here you go.
I don't remember like the day I got it and anybody
Yeah.
having some reaction, but I do remember my older sister Rebecca like on the other side of the bathroom door trying to explain to me how to get a tampon in and like laying that little, that little paper that you like unwrap, unfold from the box and laying it out and being like, what now? And it's like driving a car. She was like, you just do it. And I think it took me a while. Like I definitely used pads for a while.
I did not use a tampon until I was a lot older. Yeah, I was not an immediate.
I had PCOS, so like I had a really heavy flow for a long time. Like there was a time in high school where I would use 2 tampons at once. This is an adolescent decision.
Whoa.
But I was just like, and it depend.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, this is like PCOS and, heavy flow was like, otherwise I'm not being like self-conscious. This is like, otherwise I'm just gushing blood in like the middle of, AP calculus.
Oh man.
Sorry, that was a bit of a humble brag.
High school kids are dealing with like in the high school, like that environment. When I think about if I had to see 100 of my peers every day of the week for 6 hours.
Yeah.
Like,
horrible.
How do they do that?
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Yeah, it's amazing. I see some high school kids like for coaching, like executive functioning coaching. And I'm just like, I'm in awe that in today's day and age, and this links to kind of our topic for today too, with like all of the distractions that you're able to learn for that long every day and like mostly kind of do what adults ask you to do.
Yeah.
I think it's wild actually that kids and teenagers are not kind of rebelling more right now. Yeah. I think it's impressive. It speaks to something in like the moral fabric that they're able to hold on to, or that, adults are still somehow constructing, even though it doesn't feel like it. Yeah. Can I tell you about just one last thing on my list? This was a short one. It is that my son the other day, I just thought you'd get a kick out of this. We have a new kitten and the cat loves to be played with. He's like endlessly wants to play. And if you don't play with him, then he like comes for you. So my husband was like typing and then with another hand using the little stick with the feathers on the end of it to like get to play with Midnight. And my son was like, Dad, he's like, that's so smart. It's like you've discovered life's hack. And I was like, where did you get that? And then also just, I love this idea of like maybe to a kid, there's just one life hack.
Yeah, and you're cracked it.
It's life's hack.
Now I'm happy.
Now
all
you're
the
good.
Time.
So
yeah.
So what is life's hack? Is what maybe that's just an overarching question for this podcast.
You're asking me that?
Yeah. What is life's hack to you?
Self-compassion.
Oh, beautiful.
That's all I got. That's where I am.
Okay.
That's what I'm working on.
Okay.
I think that's going to crack it all open for me.
I think mine is making your lunch the night before, but whatever. Okay.
Beautiful. All right. Well, Sarah, let's bring on our guest because I think we're ready to dig in.
Woo woo.
So we have a returning guest. Friend of the pod now.
Friend of the pod. Friend of the pod.
Definitely, you can say that.
So, regular listeners will remember Amil. She is a writer and producer based in Canada. Sarah and I love her parenting column for The Cut, which is called The Hard Part. And it explores the intersection of work and motherhood, among a lot of other things, really.
All the things.
It's true.
Welcome, Amil.
Thank you. So nice to be back here.
How's Canada?
I mean,
can we come?
Better?
I'm from what I hear, we're going to be the 51st state very soon. So
Oh
I
yeah,
don't
that
know,
does seem
if you want to
true.
come up here. No,
Yeah,
I mean,
we're gonna buy you and turn you into a golf course.
another
cool.
Mar-a-Lago. Yeah, I can't wait. I feel like the thing about being so interconnected, certainly in North America, but in the world, is that you just kind of absorb bad news about everywhere, right? Like if it's
Yeah.
the UK's in a downward spiral, I'm like, oh my God, what's going to happen to us? If America's in a downward spiral, I'm freaking out. So
Yeah. So you're
I'm
like,
just always freaking out.
you could be like, raise all ships. Like if everyone goes up, then maybe you'll go up. And
Yes. And when everyone's going down,
it's down. Emil, who is caring for your kids?
And you
right
get
now?
the 3 kids. We should do like a little
Oh, yeah.
for anyone on
Yes.
here with 3 kids. It's
Yes.
like an award.
Yeah.
Here's your medal.
yeah,
Mhm.
Emil.
they're quite spread out today, actually. So my eldest son is in California with my husband. They're
Whoa.
visiting his sister, Matt's sister, Somerset's aunt, and they're having the time of their lives. I'm actually so jealous that I can't even like really FaceTime with them.
Hmm.
Well, I'm in California right now, Emil, and I just want to tell you it's not that great. So
It's not that great.
Yeah.
That's good.
Don't worry.
That's good. Makes me feel better.
fine.
My daughter is in kindergarten, which runs all day, and she's in aftercare, so that's wonderful. I have childcare until 5.
Woo.
Well, 6 if I want it, actually.
Ooh,
And then my
sexy.
baby is with my mom.
Thanks, Mom.
Yeah,
the
thanks, Mom.
moms.
Is that
Thanks.
like a everyday thing, or what's your mom? Does she
No,
have
God,
a
I wish.
deal?
No. But we're working up to like I'm trying to get 2 days a week out of her, so
Oh yeah.
we're getting there.
That's amazing. Well, thank you. That's impressive. And 3 is a lot. I think 2
3
is
is
a
a
lot,
lot.
and 3 is a lot. So let's dig into your cut column. So
Mhm.
you wrote about your family's experience of realizing that YouTube was a problem, or like had become like a problem in your home.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that? One of the most impressive things to me was the idea of like something existing in your home as a habit and then pulling back. That sounds hard.
Yeah. Yeah. It was really like a slow burn. For a while, at first we just had one kid, and he was so easy in really a lot of ways, like very, very responsive, very I'm trying to say this in a really nice way. Like he just did what we told him to do,
Mhm.
basically. He never
Mhm.
pushed back. And so it sort of made screen time feel like a little treat. It was like, it didn't feel like I was really like pacifying an unruly child. It was just like, oh, we're at a restaurant, and we're gonna give our 2-year-old a little bit of YouTube time so we can like chat amongst ourselves, and it
Yeah.
worked, and it was fine, and nothing seemed bad about that. Then we had another kid, and of course, then the screen time usage just sort of ramps up, and we
Mhm.
had this like very powerful baby that all babies are demanding of your energy, but this baby was just like from day one, like, I'm here. She let her presence be known. And so the screen time just like accumulated, and it stopped being something that like I could always really be paying attention to.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And of course I would pick and choose like what video I would put on for him, and I'd be like, okay, it can only be this, or this. But then of course, like,
It
the
shows.
playlist runs
Yeah.
out, and then it's
Yeah.
just showing him like more and more stuff, and he's such a sweetie, and it was feeding him like creepy weird stuff.
Yeah.
And who even knows what creepy is? So subjective. But I remember one day he said like he saw like a Bluey. It was Bluey's mom, but she had a weird voice and weird
Yeah.
eyes.
Oh my God, I'm gonna have nightmares.
Right. And I was just like,
Yeah.
okay, like what is going on? What am I doing? And also my, by then toddler, even they were both kind of toddlers at the same time, but
Yeah.
my daughter was also, of course, watching over his shoulder because she wanted to do everything that he did. And she just was like, whereas he did everything we told him, she was like, no, I do what I want.
Mm-hmm.
And she just like wanted more and more and more and more.
Yeah.
He could stop. He would stop himself. She just could not stop herself.
Yeah.
My sister always says this, like she has 2 kids and she's like, I had 1 kid and just because of who she was, I was like, I'm an amazing parent. And then I had a second kid and I was like, oh, all kids are different. and it has nothing to do with me.
Exactly. If you want to know the truth about parenting, which will set you free in many ways, just have another kid.
Oh, for sure.
And you'll realize it has nothing to do with you. Okay. It's not what you feed them. It's not your sleep schedule. It's just some are like this
values.
and some are like that. Yeah. Values. Forget all that stuff.
I was I ran into this lady at a thrift, like a kid thrift store yesterday, and she was talking about having another baby and she's wearing her like 6-month-old. And, I was like, yeah. And she was kind of like trying to pick my brain about it a little bit. And I was like, well, the thing that is really shocking about having a second baby is that they're an entirely different person. Like it is not your first baby again. And that was weirdly surprising to me. Like,
I've had a lot of people say that before. They're like, I just want another one of this. And you're like, that's not how this works.
You're rolling the dice.
You get what you get and you don't throw a fit, which is something we say in my house a lot.
Yeah, you don't get upset.
And you don't get upset, yes.
So then they don't get YouTube. So they don't get YouTube anymore.
They were watching a lot of YouTube.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, well, I have to always be present because I was still sort of wrestling with the idea of shutting it off completely because I'm into tech. I look at my phone. I'm very immersed in social media. I watch a lot of TV. I watch it for work. We watch TV together. So I still hadn't fully accepted that this was something bad. And then my 3 and 5-year-old at the time, their friends and them started to talk like YouTubers, like streamers.
Oh yeah.
Like,
so like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe,
yes.
Post a comment, they were and they don't
like
know
in
what
everyday
any of this
conversation?
Means. No, well, in games with each other, in some of their imaginative play, but also like, at the dinner table, all of our friends would gather. We're very lucky. Our friends who we actually love have kids that our kids love. And so we have this great community. And I was noticing all of these lovely kids were talking like YouTubers.
Yeah,
and that was
totally.
it. It was like slow burn, panicked realization, something very bad is happening here. And I knew that I had to stop it in that moment or it was going to be one of those things that I could not ever stop. And so together with my son's closest best friend, his mom and I were like, we're done. Yeah. So we did it the summer they were 5, I think, or 6. And we were like, it's over. There's no more YouTube. Goodbye. That was that.
Well, that actually leads me to a question about something that you write about in the piece, which is that another mom at your kid's school organized a parent council group around this. And so I'm interested in this like communal approach to how much influence we decide to allow. I think YouTube, we can talk about YouTube, but I think for me, I would more broadly describe it as like algorithmic viewing. Like, so it's kind of like how Sarah and I were talking about the Diva Cup and like period cups. It's like, YouTube is the brand, but I think the problem is like, it could be another platform, but it's the algorithm.
Right. Like after having talked about Diva Cups, I guarantee when I open my phone next, Instagram will try to sell me them.
Right. And like, and like what you were talking about, Amil, the
TikTok would be another great example.
Exactly.
My kids are obviously not allowed on TikTok.
Right. But it's really not that different. And I think that the kind of like the YouTube washing of like YouTube kids, like we vetted. And there's all kinds of anecdotes about kids getting fed bizarre things. Right. And even just like for me, it was like, do I want my kid hanging out in like the uncanny valley? Like there's a lot of uncanny valley stuff out on YouTube kids, like maybe
Miranda
90% of it.
So you're asking Miranda, like, how do we turn this from like just an individual choice we're making to like try to protect our individual kids and thinking about how this whole system interacts with children at large and how we get involved.
Yeah. And I'm curious about this communal approach, because I think in my experience, we don't do YouTube, but I don't want to talk to other parents about it because I know they do, and then it gets messy and I don't want to make anyone feel bad and blah blah blah. So I'm interested about this community effort. How is it working out? Is it working out? Is there any pushback? Like what's going on with that?
Yeah, I mean, the fear is very real. Even just in writing this piece, I was, Miranda and I had talked about how scary it is to say like YouTube is bad out loud to other parents, because that people feel very strong. It's like the melatonin gummies. Some
Yeah.
people really are into it, and some people are like, that seems
That's
crazy.
child abuse. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Whatever
Yeah.
camp you fall into. I've had some
If
arguments
that's
with
true,
people.
I abused my children last night.
Like
Thank God.
it's
Yeah.
your parenting choices are very personal,
Yeah.
and they can evolve, but you are really protective about it, right?
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
I was worried about writing about this, but I was so interested in this woman at my school who had read Jonathan Haidt's book about
Yeah.
how phones are basically destroying our children, phones and social media.
The anxious generation.
Which
The anxious
we have a lot of
has
ambivalence about.
Yeah, we have a tepid relationship
no.
with Jonathan Haidt, but
I think it's Height,
yeah.
by the way, but
Oh,
if we
Haidt.
want
Oh,
to
sorry.
mispronounce him just to spite him, I'm fine with that.
I like to say hated.
Jonathan Haidt. Hated. Much hated. No, not by me. I'm also ambivalent.
Yeah.
But what she liked about the book in particular was this idea that it could be a call to action,
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
a rallying cry was necessary, and a community approach was probably the only way to turn this around. Hence, probably writing the book. So she was inspired by that. She is trying to get this like parent group going. She doesn't really know. It's difficult, right? Like
yeah.
we have a pizza lunch at my school. Some new parents came onto the council, and it used to be pizza, popcorn, and a juice box, and veggies, and they took away the popcorn and the juice box, and it was just pizza and veggies.
That's not a complete meal.
Because one mom decided, like, do they need juice? Why can't they just drink water? And of course there was a revolt. I was one of the revolters, and I was like, excuse me, I pay for juice.
Yeah, it's a little fun.
It's a treat. It was kind of this idea like that, there's too much friction around this. How can we like agree on juice boxes or no juice boxes, basically, but with smartphones and social media. So she's still trying to get it going. But what I noticed about my piece is that overwhelmingly the response from people that reached out to me was, I am doing this too, or I'm in the process of doing this.
Yeah.
And I just feel like, thank you for saying this, basically. So I feel that there is traction. There's a movement. There is more desire amongst more parents to have this conversation, whether you're going to take action or not against algorithmic viewing. People are attuned into how it's affecting their kids. And I feel the community approach coming. And by the way, it's the only way it's going to work.
For
Okay,
sure.
the only
Yeah.
reason
Yeah.
that my son, and then by domino effect my daughter, could stop is because I did it in conjunction with the people he spends the most time with. That's
What
it.
do you imagine that would
They
look
weren't
like,
watching
Amil?
it, so he wasn't watching it.
Yeah, okay.
To me, it is, and this is what Anna at my school was also trying to get across, is like, if she says no, but then he goes to school and everyone at school has a phone, it's going to become a bigger and bigger problem.
Yeah.
And something that it's like, pushing the rock up the hill. I can't remember the guy's name, but he pushes the rock up the
Sisyphus.
hill. Thank you, Sisyphus. Yeah, I could do it in a bubble, but we know you send them to school and the bubble bursts and everything just comes flooding in. So I really do feel like it has to kind of be a collective action, and the kids have to know why we're doing it. So that they understand and that they feel motivated to be part of it. Like my kids, I talk to them so much and say, like, it's because it's making you more anxious. We talked about the physical responses to their body, like that their heart rate goes up, that their eyes, and they kind of were cluing into that. And I was like, I know it makes you feel bad, especially when you watch it at night, you can't go to sleep. And they were like, yeah, that's true. I have nightmares all night,
Yeah, about Chili's voice being different. That's
Exactly.
horrifying.
It's horrifying.
Yeah, that is. Well, I think it's interesting to think about including them, because I'm thinking about the parental shift, and some of this political moment too, I think, is causing people to re-examine relationships with tech and media companies.
Yeah,
And so like,
definitely.
we as adults are like heavily influenced by Mark Zuckerberg, for example,
Hmm.
and his algorithm. And, I think that is something that a lot of adults haven't really reckoned with.
Yep.
Like, what does that mean? But we're seeing it. I think we're seeing what that means for our culture. And so to work on our own like media literacy, then we have to kind of be feeling decently digital media literate in order to like pass that down to our kids.
Well, and
Yeah.
we have to
And
be ready to be a little better. Like, I also think it's one of those
yeah,
things where, like, I make my kids eat vegetables, but I eat shit. And I
Yeah.
do think kids
Yeah.
are
right.
more vulnerable. I mean, I think kids
Yeah,
deserve
yeah.
a lot of rights and respect, but I also think it like I talked to my kid about this when he's like, "Why do you get to stay up late?" I'm
Yeah.
like, your brain is growing. Mine
Yeah.
is like just kind of receding every
Yeah.
day.
Shrinking.
But
Yeah.
Shrinking,
also
yeah.
I should go to bed earlier. And so there's that context too. Like I've been reading Amanda Hess's new book. It comes out in the spring. It's called Second Life, and it's about kind of having children in the age of the algorithm, essentially. And she's talking about just being pregnant and like, tracking her pregnancy on the pregnancy app, and then all of the things that she's being sold about maternity. And she goes into a little bit how some of these things work and how they figure out what to sell us and sell our data. And it's such a behemoth. So, there's kind of the question of like, how much are we as parents willing to really model this and not just kind of like shove this all on our kids to be good and
Yeah.
we get to be bad, but also is this a fight we can win, or are we kind of thinking about interventions in the wrong ring almost, because our opponent is just massive and much more
Mhm.
powerful than us.
Well,
Mm.
I mean, obviously the community approach includes not just other parents, but you, right? Modeling the behavior and accepting the change, your kids, being part. I just think like it's a big circle, a big net that everyone has to sort of be in. Um, are we fighting something, a completely losing battle is something I ask myself every day about social media, algorithmic
Mm.
viewing, smartphones.
Mm-hmm.
Again, one, because I have not altered my behavior that much. I don't watch YouTube. I never did. So it wasn't a hard change for me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I am on my phone a lot. Unfortunately, I'm on Instagram and Twitter and just looking at my phone, and that is something I am actively trying to change. And I just don't know if I am warding off one temporary evil,
Right.
only to allow everything else into our lives, and it's just going to be like a big crashing wave. And I think a lot of parents, that is the struggle, is where is the line between having a kid who is media literate, who has context within the internet because it's going to be a part of their lives no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
So you let them watch YouTube, you let them be on social media, you give them a phone because you know it's inevitable, and you just try and teach them how to be good at that.
Right. It's like, what's the long game? If I'm thinking
Yes.
about the human being I'm raising versus
Exactly.
like, what are my goals?
Right? It's like you can try and never give them McDonald's, but then one day they're going to eat a French fry and go, this is the best thing. And then they're just going to have one at McDonald's all the time. But I do feel that, like I said, more parents are aware now. I do feel like this presidential campaign with all of the tech oligarchs, changing how they moderate content. I just kept thinking that I can't believe more parents are not speaking up about what he's saying, because he's essentially saying, I don't care what your kids view on my platform.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he realizes there's no kids on his platform and they're all on TikTok and YouTube. But that was just such an alarm bell to me. And I couldn't believe we weren't having a bigger conversation right then in that moment, because he essentially just said, like, if your kid is gay or like starting to understand his sexuality, and he sees someone on my platform say that being gay is, whatever he said
Cool.
was fine, was acceptable.
Yeah.
I think it was something like
We don't
a
need
mental
to
illness.
Yeah.
That's okay for your kid to see. And, you know, so like,
Yeah.
I just think as a parent, to me, that was an instant turning point.
Yeah.
Where I was like, there's no going back from that. And I feel as an aware parent, that would be a moment where it would be hard to deny the reality of who's in charge of this stuff and how little they actually care about what your children see.
Yeah.
And as you wrote about in your essay, and as something that we've touched on before, you know, these tech oligarchs, their kids don't use any of these platforms. They're not on, they go to special schools with absolutely zero screens.
Yeah.
And you
they're
know,
doing math on an abacus.
Right. And my kid is at public school on a computer like half the day.
I do like an abacus. Well, but there's also, you also talk about in your piece, you know, the flip side to that, which is that, you know, like when we interviewed parents of trans kids in a recent episode, you know, they were talking about how both they want to protect their kids from dangerous things on YouTube, like you mentioned, or Instagram, but also that, you know, like their trans daughter sees, you know, drag queen makeup tip videos. And this is, I think, for adults too, what's so hard about this is like my phone is the place where I, you know, get depressed. It's the place where I feel bad about my body. It's the place where, you know, I'm indoctrinated politically. It's also the place where I like see my mommy and I, you know, talk to my brother about, you know, his baby and, you know, and so that's what's so hard. That's what keeps you coming back.
Kids find community on YouTube, on TikTok. Absolutely. But they should be teenagers. They should be a little bit more aware and able to make critical decisions about who they're talking to, whether it is actually someone within their community and a peer. I don't think a 10-year-old needs to be doing that. They can find community in real life at school with play, you know, like you're still part of that. As a teenager, I think you do have more privacy, more solitary world, more desire for connections that don't include your parents.
Yeah.
I'm okay with a teenager finding community on social media, but
I think what also, you know, for that guest, you know, I think for her daughter where they are, it can be hard to find community if they're not out or depending, you know, but I think that it sounded like, we didn't talk too much about the tech, but like, you know, again, it's not necessarily the platform, it's the algorithm. So like if you show your kid just a drag queen makeup video or whatever they were enjoying, like you could watch that and then turn it off. And you can just also hold that line. Like sometimes my son likes to watch like a trailer and we will watch it on, we'll pull it up on YouTube, like on the TV.
Yeah, we love that too.
And then if YouTube tries to surface other videos, you know, he'll say like, oh, what's that? You know, and I'm like, well, I don't know, but we're not watching it. And it's like,
I have a hard time with that.
And so
I'm
we're
like,
not watching it. You know,
my two kids will just be, you know, it's like, it's just, I hate the like metaphor of drugs. I feel like it feels, I don't know, sensationalist, but it is like a, you know, it is like a drug,
slot
you know?
machines, right? They all talk about these are
like,
designed after slot machines, right? Like that's what TikTok is. That's what it's working on our dopamine. Like it's giving you that satisfaction of like, but I'm sure we've all watched kids on YouTube with like on a tablet and just, they watch like 3 seconds of like a million different videos.
Right, without even finishing it. That's what I'm working on. Like you finish the thing, you have to be bored. But then I don't even know if what I'm teaching is a valuable thing anymore.
Well, attention spans are important, right?
It is true. I'm just like, I get lost with like what does building an attention span look like in this world? Am I having a nostalgic version that's not possible? Like, am I updating? I don't know. To go back to the anxious generation, I think that something I refuse to read it. I don't want to give that guy my money. I think there's a lot of good things in it. And I love the podcast If Books Could Kill, and they did a 2-hour episode on it that I could have listened to 4, where they really talk about the good and the bad of it. Like the bad is like a lot of the research is pretty crummy. I think it doesn't take into effect the like context of teenagers' lives, both kind of what it is at all to be a teenager. Like he talked to 0 teenagers, and also other reasons that teenagers might be anxious to be alive right now, other than social media. And there's definitely some good things in it that I believe in. And I, working in education, I have talked to a lot of people who work in schools who, since that book came out, have tightened their phone policies. And both the teachers and staff and the students I talk to all say it's better. And so I think that that is kind of what you were talking about just saying like, well, you can do it. Let's just wait till you're 12 or whatever. That feels like just a positive next right step, right? That's like, maybe this isn't the solution. It's so complicated, but I think we know it's good to wait a little bit. We know it's good to not have kids on their phones during the day. But the piece that Haidt talks about in the book, I was led to believe that I'm not hearing about, is the policy change piece. Is like, I think he does advocate for we should be holding tech companies responsible. That became a lot more difficult, January 20th.
Exactly.
But so I don't know if you've thought about that, Amil, or encountered any of like, what are people doing on that scale? When you say we should be rising up, what does that mean?
Well, I've honestly been waiting for someone from YouTube to like email me and say like, hey, stop talking about ditching YouTube. But they probably just like, yeah, lady, you go ahead and turn off YouTube. We're fine.
Yeah. They're making plenty of money.
They're making plenty of money. But, there was a point where YouTube did have to bring in like someone to oversee family content. There was the creation of YouTube Kids exactly for this reason, so that adult content wasn't being filtered to our children, via this algorithm. So they do think about it. They have people in charge of policy changes specifically towards kids. Someone from Meta has talked to me before, I think it was last year in the spring, about different things that Facebook and Instagram were doing to make, the social media experience less damaging for teenagers and for kids.
They actually invited me down, and I missed it because of children, but I was going to go. Like Meta had this, it
was like a lunch and learn or something.
Yes, it was a thing. And Elisa Pressman was there. And it was like, I wanted to go, but I missed it. But even just to hear how they are spinning, like,
yes, it was a lot of spin.
We're making it good for teens on Facebook. And you're like,
but this was all pre-Zuckerberg's.
This is pre what happened in the last
gold chain era for him.
Exactly. There's no impetus right now for them to be held accountable. They're not going to be held accountable by the government. That's very obvious. Right. That's why they spent millions. Who knows how much they spent? But to basically to make sure that they're not forced to be held accountable, it's not going to. I think really until they have to stand up and be accountable for all of the content that is on their platforms, right? Yeah. So that if your kid sees something and it leads to something negative for them, something truly bad for them, that they then have to pay some sort of price. That's not going to happen, but that's in the right direction. I think. But I can see from the parents that have reached out to me and talked to me, and from the anxiety that we're all feeling about this, I think it's time for us, the collective communal action doesn't just happen at home. It needs to happen on a larger, more, organized scale that involves political action and change that leads to changes on these platforms, because we cannot do this in a bubble. And my piece was sort of trying to just open the door to that and say, hey, I'm thinking about this. Turns out a lot of other people are thinking about this. Maybe you're thinking about this, reading this. What, where should we take this next?
Let's get together.
Let's get together.
If anybody listening is involved in anything like that, advocating for lawsuits or different laws, please, let us know. It sounds like it's one of those things sometimes where like you have a untapped community just kind of ready to go, but
I mean,
without
getting
direction.
rid of content moderation was a signal to me that we're not You know,
Definitely
we're going in the
makes it
opposite
harder.
direction.
I
Yeah.
think being in like the kind of be the change thing, right? Like what you're saying, Emil, like you kind of felt some tension in coming out as like,
Yeah.
hey, look, I don't do YouTube anymore. And like, because there's that fear of like making other parents feel judged or whatever. But you know, so we had a random play date last night with a kid in Griffin's class. The two of them planned it and then told us moms at pickup that they were having a play date.
I love
And
that.
Yeah, I love
it was
that.
great.
Thanks.
And
Put it on the calendar.
It was great. I hadn't met this other mom, but I love her kid. And so we kind of were quickly meeting, right? Just like, kid, does this work for you? It works for me. Okay. Your house, my house. And we decided my house. And so I said, just quickly, I was like, we don't have any guns. You know, I was just trying to like throw something out. And then she was like, okay, great.
Miranda.
She's like, my kid doesn't have any allergies. I was like, great. And then I said, we usually watch a little TV after school. Is that okay with you? She's like, sure. No YouTube. And I was like, yeah, great. Same. But it was interesting, right? I was like, this is fascinating because that would be my thing too. Like, but I was also very impressed with her first saying it.
Yeah.
And I think of her as a mom slightly ahead of me because her kid that's Griffin's age is her younger, and then she has a 4th grader. So maybe she's just more practiced in that.
I don't know. You came out quick with the no guns. I feel like that's experienced.
Well, I learned that from another mom when we did a first play date, and she said like, just so you know, we don't have guns. And I was like, oh, thank you for making it easier because I feel weird asking. So now I just tell people that, or I try to remember to tell people that.
Well, that's a way to
people,
signal that you care, you know?
Right. And I thought the YouTube thing, it was great. And it immediately made me feel bonded to her. Like, oh, we share a value. Like, cool. This is great. Now I feel really good about our kids playing together.
I tell people now, no YouTube. And I've told everyone my kids play with regularly, by the way, please, when they're at your house, no YouTube. And
that's awesome.
Wow.
One mom was so inspired by that she decided to limit her son's YouTube to only once a week, and it has to be certain videos only, which was great. She was like, oh, you don't do YouTube, you know, like we had a conversation. I told her why. She said, yeah, that's true. I noticed he also gets very like fidgety and angry, and okay. So then a couple days later she was like, hey, by the way, now we don't do you're like, it was great. And same, this other mom she said, oh yeah, I've stopped YouTube as well, but sometimes I play them music videos on YouTube, but it's just like, they say a song, I find the song and we play the music video. And I was like, totally fine. We do that with, like you said, trailers. We do that. But it's on my TV and it's, I control it.
Yeah.
But that conversation has really, like you said, bonded us. And it's amazing to me. You guys have to talk about guns. Like, that's so shocking. We
Is
don't
that
have to
where
do that
you don't identify with the U.S.?
All right, we're moving to Canada. All right,
zeros that would never, ever, ever come up in conversation ever.
Wow.
No one has those. But it's interesting to know like what is your red line as a parent, because it does have to be expressed via play dates nowadays. And the fact that mom said YouTube just tells me that this is something that's happening. Like that it was on par with guns and allergies. If number 3 was YouTube, something is happening, and this is a moment. And I just want parents to feel empowered. It doesn't have to be a complete ban. It just has to be thinking about it. Let's just on a collective level think about what is happening to our kids and who we have let take over our lives. Like, all of us.
Yeah. See it. Yeah. Just see it. And I think that is scary because it's everywhere. Right. And I believe it has delivered us Donald Trump. So like, this is a real thing. Like the power of these digital media companies, like we have to consider it as a power that we are reckoning with and that we are in relationship with and that our kids are in relationship with. And we have to decide. And then we have to also feel empowered, like you say, to realize that we can decide. Yeah. We can totally decide. We don't need these companies. We don't need these platforms.
I guess that's a version of like, I get squeamish about like individual responsibility, but the flip side of that is individual agency, right? Is like, we can do that. And collective agency, we can do that as a community.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's not up to us to have to change this, but we can change our behavior, and that can lead to something bigger and more conversations. And my fear is that it will become a divisive political issue in the way that many other things have, like how you eat and,
the juice
and all of these other things. And it becomes this, and guns, and becomes this hard line. After my piece came out, the mom that I mentioned who said like, well, it's up to the kid. A lot of our mutual friends shared my piece, and in a very like, yes, it's time to get rid of YouTube. And she doubled down, and it was sort of like this weird sub tweet type of thing where she was like, well, I'm not changing my kids' behavior. They can watch as much YouTube as they want. Okay. And I thought, oh, it's a funny thing to double down on, because it's not like I just made this up, and it's not me versus you, but I immediately thought of like sugar and
red
just
dye.
all of the
all
these things where we, instead of coming together and figuring out how to best deal with something that is part of our kids' lives, it becomes this like very sticky point that divides us, and becomes like, now we don't do play dates with the non-YouTube
right
people, that's not it.
It's so personal, so it's like, you feel challenged, and judged. When I see a parent say, we think sugar is crack, I'm like, well, we have sugar for every meal,
right?
Exactly. And now we're gonna have double because I feel I feel judged
and exhausted with the decision making, right?
Exactly.
Like parent decision making,
so much.
And then we make a decision, and sometimes we do want to double down because we don't want to have to make that decision again because it's so tiring. Well, Amil, this has been so interesting, and I'm really curious to see what happens. I agree, it's like in the ether. I'm glad you put it out there. To just
someone from the Wall Street Journal reached out and was like, thank you for saying this, because I didn't people were like, I didn't know we were allowed to say that, basically. Like, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And so I do think there's a, sparks are happening, and it doesn't have to be permanent, but I'm excited we're just like talking about it, because
me too.
Well, Amil, can you throw us a quick culture recommendation before you go? Obviously, it won't be a YouTube
Who's your favorite
video.
YouTube creator?
Mr. Beast, I love that guy.
Maybe you can tell us where you get your rainbow of gorgeous lipsticks.
So this is a MAC lipstick.
MAC is really good.
MAC is so good, right? I can't remember the name, but it's like something saucy. And
is it like the crayon? It looks like a matte.
It's matte.
Like the pencil, but
it's just a lips. It's like the classic retro black. I love that lipstick.
It looks very good on you.
So just like the 90s to me.
Yes,
MAC is like
with the dark lip liner.
Yes, Spice. Yeah. All the women on Friends wore MAC Spice lip liner. I remember that from my magazines. What am I watching? I'm really just kind of a housewives stan right now, because so many of them are on, like Salt Lake City, Beverly Hills, New York.
Ooh, is Beverly Hills
Orange
on right
County?
Now?
Yeah, they're all on right now.
Is Jenna Lyons back on New York?
She is, and they're in the. You should watch that. It's actually like quite a kind of a wild, chaotic, Roni season. I know a lot of people don't like this new cast, but the last 2 episodes are so real and intense, and like will actually get you talking about a lot of different, difficult, uncomfortable things.
Who's at the center of the drama?
Everyone. They're all, but Bryn and Uba.
I was going to say, is Bryn still on? Yeah.
And now the reunion's happening. So catch up on this, because it's really like, it actually will get you talking about a lot of heavy, interesting things. And that's a weird thing to say about the Housewives, but
I have never watched a single an episode of Housewives.
Oh, start with
I'm not trying to like be the, and I never will. I'm not trying to do that thing. I'm just telling you, where should I start?
It's a lot to catch up.
Yeah, tell her where to start, Amil. My opinion is the leg on the table. That's my favorite like Housewives moment, but I know that's like really old. I just
no you kind of like Scary Island is also a great that season of New York. The old New York is some with Dorinda and
Ramona's
Luann,
her catwalk moment.
Ramona and
Oh my gosh.
Sonia, like that. Those are some of
Yeah.
the most lovable, horrible people on television. And
Yeah.
that to me is like, if you ever feel like I just want to know what this whole thing is about, but I don't
Yeah.
necessarily want to like
Yes.
be responsible to watch 1,000 episodes.
Yes.
Just watch
That's where
like
I am.
a couple seasons of
New York.
old school
Yeah.
New York
Okay.
Housewives,
All right.
and you
Yeah.
will be so sated.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Like-
it's a big hole in my cultural understanding. So I'm aware.
I'm only just getting like I've only recently caught up to all of this.
Well, I'm
so
working on
behind.
Gilmore Girls, and I just
Different
finished
vibe.
season 3, so I move slowly, but I'll put it on my queue.
It's massively more wholesome.
I like that you're just going decade by decade at this point.
Basically,
I've
what did I
never
miss?
seen television before, so let me
What did
start
I
with.
miss? Exactly. I
Got
started
Jeannie. Now she's-
exactly. I started with I
Wait.
Love Lucy.
Can I ask you both a question as well?
Yes,
please.
yes. We take questions.
So what is your screen policy?
That's a great one. Sarah, do you want to go first?
So my kids are 9 and 6.5. You should know. We don't really have an explicit one. We do have tech rules that we listed out as a family. We don't always follow them, but they are no more than like you can't have more than one screen at the same time, right? It's like no being on your phone while we're watching
While
something.
watching TV? Okay.
Exactly.
I like that.
There's no screens at the table. We try to have phones live in like the charging station at the front of our house and not be like out and about. And there's no alerts on, like no phone buzzing and stuff.
Yeah.
I think
I love that.
think that's it. I think it's really important what you said about all kids are different. I think again, like and just with one kid, it was a lot easier. And when they were younger, and now kind of we're starting to, feel their desire. So we definitely watch. We probably watch stuff every day, almost every day. Some days we don't. I try to like the step in the right direction thing is like, I think it's better to watch together than apart. I think it's better to watch longer things than shorter things. And like, I think about my kids' whole days. Like my kid is in school for 6 hours, just kind of like learning. And he wants to come home and watch his like Lego Ninjago show for an hour while he snuggles the cat in his room with his headphones. It's fine with me. But
Yeah.
I wonder if what's happening is we didn't have a policy, and I was so proud of that. And now we're in a place where, like, because we didn't have a policy, we're a bit all over the place and we need to renegotiate. So that's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I'm into family meetings and talking about this stuff together. I think my kids can mostly handle that.
I love your tech
Yeah.
rules, and it sounds like very. There's a couple there that I'm like, okay, let me add that to.
Yeah, we
to
don't
the
always
pot.
do them, but it also helps. Like, we talking about the communal thing. Like, we had stuff where, like, when people would stay with us, mostly our parents, who we love, and we would be like, "Wow, you guys are like on your phones a lot," and maybe it was just the same as we are, but we can see it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so it was like, okay, we have these this is just an expectation for everyone that like we aren't gonna like be sitting on the couch while the kids are playing, looking at our phone. But we do it sometimes.
We don't. So our screen thing is really simple. And I don't remember exactly how it evolved, but maybe it was after Nellie was born, we made more structure or something. But the kids we call it morning TV, and it's one show before school, and it has to be short. So like Shaun the Sheep or Bluey or Snoopy is like 7 minutes. Like I like the 7-minute for the preschool. It's just like a minute to sit, and that's when they eat their breakfast. And
Mhm.
my husband is always trying to be like, it's bad to watch TV before school, and I'm like, stop.
Well, my kids don't never eat their breakfast. So, it's all about
Try
the
TV.
collective whole, the gestalt.
And then we do, if it's the weekend, we do lunch TV, which is like a show while I prepare lunch. Or if it's during the week, they do a little TV after school. And that I don't have a like set limit on. It's usually like they each get to choose a show, and then we call it an agree upon, and then they choose a show that they
You have
agree
very
on.
cute little names for things.
And
wait,
then we
also,
do dinner
you
teeth.
have like, you have like a whole
I was going to
interesting...
explain that too.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So
Tell
we-
Amil.
so we-
And
so
also,
we
I don't
do-
really understand it,
Yeah.
even though you've
so
told
we do
me.
dinner teeth, and that's like a show while I cook dinner. So we have 3 TV times in a day. Ideally, they're each about anywhere from 7 to 20 minutes long. The one after school sometimes runs long because I'm trying to get something done, or they seem exhausted. And then, and Nellie is kind of in the process of like needing a nap, but shouldn't nap. So I kind of treat it like almost like a nap. So, but yeah, so we don't have Netflix or any, we have a Plex server, which is, so we don't, nothing is coming to us from any platform. We have shows. So we have shows that we choose to have. So we have
It's like a big drive.
It's a server. Yeah. It's yes.
Is
yeah,
it like
exactly.
how we used to have music on our computers?
It's like
you would
we
have
own,
like...
it's as if you own these shows. It's as if you
Right.
own like,
Yeah.
and then
It's
you have
a
a
library.
Exactly.
Okay, that I can
So
do.
we
I
only
understand
have those
libraries.
things. And so when a show becomes a problem, like Nellie's relationship with Frozen got really intense. And so David hid it. And so it's still there. So like if she really freaks out and I'm like, whatever, just watch Frozen, I can do that. But she doesn't see it. Like in the
Right, it's the
library.
seeing it. We're like, we'll
So-
choose something and we'll be all excited to watch a movie, and then we'll
Yeah.
open up Netflix and they'll be like, what about that? What about that?
Yeah.
That
Yeah, so
it
that's
makes
been
me
nice.
crazy.
So we have a little library of like movies that are for his movie nights. But that is David, you know, he builds websites, he works for Google. Like he is extremely skeptical of all of those companies because he has lived and worked in that world. So I would say, if anything, he's like the most distrustful of all of those platforms.
Says a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Can
anyway,
I add
so
one
we're
thing I
very-
forgot?
Yeah.
Is
yeah.
that my kids don't have iPads.
Oh, yeah,
And
we don't
I'm
do
not trying to
tablets.
get
Yeah,
some
no
award, whatever. We suck so hard in lots of ways. And I know families where that really works. But for me, the individual device thing feels like a window into a lot of things. And so I don't want my kids walking around with their iPad and going to things by themselves. So now my son has like an old laptop of ours and he can get to stuff, but he doesn't like go to they don't like know about the whole internet quite yet. And so I'm just trying to like, I know that's coming and I'll help them coach. They'll have years to be coached through it, but I just don't want them to have like that free reign and also like the walking around on your phone again, which is what I do. But
I think it's good to compromise too, right? Like the agree upon that we do, or like Griffin has to suffer through Nellie's show and then she watches his. So like
that worked for us for a while when they were younger, and now it just doesn't.
Yeah, I think it's cute. Like, I guess I think it's
it
cute
was
when like
cute,
Griffin will
and
be
now
like, "Oh, Daniel Tiger," and
won't do
then
it.
he's totally sucked in, and they're both like talking to the TV. And then, anyway, but Amil, I want to let you go because
we never really talked about this. I love you for asking that.
Let you go, but thank
Yeah,
you.
I mean, it's something I love to ask people and I love to talk about because it's like it's always evolving. You get tips from other people. You sort of like, I never feel judged when someone tells me their screen policy. I just feel like, oh, like we're all in this together and we're all trying to figure it out, and everyone just has their own way of dealing with this. And like, it's good to talk. It's like talking about money, right? Like you got to be transparent about just the things that rule your life.
Yeah, and
Amen.
it's such a pressure valve release too, to be like, oh, are you struggling with this? Like, totally,
we all
well,
are.
thank you, Amil.
Well,
this
thank
was
you.
wonderful, and thank you for putting it out there. Way to go.
Happy to be here.
Thanks for listening to Mother of It All. And like my mom always said, ooh, what are you watching?
The Mother of It All is produced by Opus Knox Media with music from It's Electric. If you like this episode, why not send it to a friend right now? Go on, we'll wait. You can follow us on Substack at themotherofitall.substack.com, where subscribing will get you episodes and bonus posts in your inbox and connect you with the Mother of It All listener community. Plus, become a paid subscriber and get a hot off the presses Mother of It All canvas tote. We're also on Instagram at The Mother of It All, and you can email us anytime with ideas or feedback at motherculturepod@gmail.com.